everybody, welcome back to Epic Beauty Fail. I'm Jessica, and on today's video we're going to be doing the palette tag that was going around, I don't know, like 2 months ago. I'm a little behind the times. Yes, I am. And that's okay. It's okay. I struggled with a couple of the categories, which is what took me so long to film this. If you have seen my recent declutter series, I did go through my entire eyeshadow collection, and I have more powder than I will ever need in my entire life. Absolutely. I am 41 years old. If I live to be 150, I will never go through all this eyeshadow. I know that. This is my hobby. So some people go fishing, some people go hiking, some people go tenting, some people read books, buy books. Right now, makeup is my hobby, which is where my money goes. So my hobby money goes. Anyhow, I have more eyeshadow than I need in my entire life, but I went through the categories. I think this was started by Samantha March, I think. And I went through all the categories and pulled out all of the items that fit into the categories. There are some of these eyeshadow palettes that I could have used for multiple categories, point blank, and I will touch on that. But I try to whittle it down, and I only have like one or two, except with the exception of two categories. I have like one or two in the category. There's two categories that I have more than one or two, and I will talk about those and why I have those. But let's go ahead and get into it. This was, like I said, started by Samantha March, and I think somebody else, but I can't remember who the other YouTuber was. I'm sorry. You guys probably already know. I just can't remember. So anywho, we're going to go ahead and get into this. So I have them all laid out in front of me, and we're going to go through them, each of the categories, one at a time. So the first category is the newest palette. My newest palette is the Naked Honey palette. Now, this is not a new palette. It actually came out several months ago. I haven't even pulled it out of the package yet. But in April, I think, Urban Decay was running a special that this palette in particular was 50% off. And it was like a limited time purchase for like a weekend. And I wanted to buy this, and I almost bought it during the 20% off spring sale at Sephora. And it was one of the items that I had in my cart for a long time and then ended up pulling out at like the last minute. So when I got it at 50% off on the Urban Decay website, I was so excited about it. This is a pretty palette. I have not touched it yet, but that is my newest palette. I do want to get into it and use it. I just have not had the opportunity to do that yet. And I know Urban Decay came out with a new one, an Ultraviolet, I think. I have not picked that up yet. I don't know that I will, but this one is definitely something that I wanted to give a try. All right, the oldest. If you go back and look at the beginning of my channel from several years ago, I did a video where I talked about my current makeup collection. I don't know if that's the title of the video. I actually did, like, it was like one of the first videos, like the first, second, third video, something like that on my channel. I went out on Black Friday a couple of years ago and bought a whole bunch of stuff for my channel. But I did a video, or maybe it's the beginning of that video, where I talked about my current collection. I still have all those items. I don't know how old these eyeshadow palettes are, and I have more than two. These were all in my little bag. If you go back and look at that video, I have a little bag that had my entire makeup collection fit in a bag. Hold on, I'll show it to you. This is the bag. My entire makeup collection. Oh, I was looking for those little hair ties. And I got dust flying everywhere. My entire makeup collection for years fit in this bag. That's it. And I still have most of the makeup. I have it in a little box back here, kind of as like a, I don't know, memento. I don't know. I'm just weird. But my entire makeup collection used to fit in this bag. Look, that's what I was getting at. So I still have the eyeshadow palettes that I had, and they are right here. And I'm going to go through them and tell you what they are. But these are really, really, really old. Really old. So this one is a Maybelline one. It is the Expert Eyes Eyeshadow and Island Shimmer. They're all shimmers. All four of them are shimmers. They're Powder City. They look like they've got hard pan. Yeah, there's that one. And then I have this Revlon Color Stay in Seductive. And these are purples. Again, super, super powdery. I have a couple of NYC palettes. I don't even know that they sell NYC in the US anymore, do they? I've heard recently that they don't sell this brand anymore. But this is a trio called HD Color Trio. Oh, it's Oh Soho Sweet. That's the name of the actual palette. I have this NYC one, which is the Mod Quad in Bell Bottom Blues. I used to think blues looked good on my eyes. I didn't know anything then. Yeah. And then speaking of blues, I have this Wet and Wild palette. This is the Blue Had Me at Hello palette. And oh my gosh, it's not even open. It's literally still sealed. It's still sealed. I never even opened this palette. Blue Had Me at Hello. It was in that bag. Yeah. So anyway, those are my oldest palettes. Let's keep going. This video is going to be a million years long. So my most expensive palette. So I have some palettes that are pretty high in price, but this one is the one that is the most expensive and the most expensive that I purchased. And I purchased this full price. This was a Christmas present to myself a couple of years ago when it first came out. And this is the Viseart Grand Pro Volume 1. Like I said, I bought this the year it came out, and I think this is like 175 maybe. But yeah, this is the most expensive palette I have. I barely use it. It's all mattes. I've really been interested in the Viseart Pro 2, which is a mixture of matte and shimmer, or maybe it's all shimmer. It might be all be shimmer, but I've been really interested in getting the Pro Volume 2. And every time Sephora puts Viseart on sale, which they do every once in a while, like every couple of months they put Viseart on sale, I have considered purchasing the Volume 2, but that one never goes on sale. So there's that. That, however, is the most expensive palette in my collection that I have actually purchased. I have some that are like, that I've gotten in beauty boxes. I've gotten a couple of Natasha Denona ones in beauty boxes that are like $129, I think. But I didn't purchase those individually. I got them in beauty boxes, so I don't count them. Plus, this was $175. It was more expensive. But like I said, this was a Christmas present to myself. So, all right. Next is the most affordable. I have these 3 eyeshadow palettes here. These are all from the dollar store. So they're all from LA Color. No, 2 are LA Colors and 1 is Color Mates. This is a little LA Colors. It's got 6 shades in it. It's the palette is called Haute, Haute. It's a 6-color eyeshadow, and I think they're all matte. But I did a dollar store video where I just did like full face of dollar store makeup a little while ago, and that's where these came from. So this is also LA Colors. This is a 3-color eyeshadow palette, and the name of it is Sunflower. These are all shimmers. And then this is an all shimmer palette from Color Mates, and it's got blues, purples, and then some like browns. And this is the 12 long wearing fashion eyeshadow is what it says on the back. 12 long wearing fashion eyeshadow. So that is my most inexpensive palettes, my dollar store palettes. Okay. Oh, it's the most affordable, not most inexpensive, but okay. Everyday palette. I had 2 in here and I took one out, and I will tell you why in a minute because it's in another category. But my most, the everyday palette. The one that I'm in love with right now is this one right here. This is the Natasha Denona Camel palette. I love this palette. I've only worn it a couple times. I haven't had it for very long, but I really like this palette a lot. And this is like an everyday palette. Like on my eyes in particular, I usually like browns, pinks, or reds. I just think that pinks and reds make my blue eyes pop, and I like browns as well because they're neutral, they're easy to wear like in a business setting and that sort of thing. So my most useful everyday palette is this one. Like I said, there's another one that I'll be talking about in a minute, which could also be in this category, but I really do like this palette a lot. And, you know, I could wear this literally for anything. Literally anything. And I like it. The quality is there. All right. The next category is the most colorful. And I have 2 in this category. They are these ones right here. This is the Laura Lee Los Angeles Party Animal palette, which I've only ever worn once. I got this in a BoxyCharm, but you can see how colorful that one is. And then the other one is the Viseart Editorial. Yeah, Editorial palette. This is a 12 pan palette. Very, very colorful. Most colorful palettes that I have. Don't get me wrong, I've got a lot of palettes that have a lot of color in it, but these are the most, when I heard most colorful, the very first palette that popped into my head was the Viseart palette. But then when I was going through my palettes, I was like, oh my gosh, the Party Animal palette is also in that category. So that's why I have 2 in that category. Next one is smallest. I have 5 in this category. No, 6. But technically there's only 2. You'll see what I mean. Wet n Wild little palettes. This is the quad in Sweet as Candy, and then this is the trio, I believe, in Sweet as Candy as well. Is that correct? Yeah. So this is the old Sweet as Candy, and this is the new one. When they rebranded or repackaged or whatever, they went from a trio to a quad. But I got the trio right before they repackaged, so it's not super old or anything like that. But these are some of the smallest, and then my other smallest are my little e.l.f. palettes that I just picked up not long ago. These are the bite-size eyeshadow palettes. I have it in Rose Water, which I haven't opened yet, Hot Jalapeno, which I have, Pumpkin Pie, which is still unopened, Berry Bad, which is still unopened, and Cream and Sugar, which I have opened. So those are my smallest palettes, not considering individuals. So like, and I shouldn't say not considering individuals. I also have a couple that I have like they're that big and they have 2 little eyeshadows in them. I was going for like a palette, so that's why I went with those ones. So technically 6, but really like 2 because it's Wet n Wild and then the e.l.f. So, all right, biggest palette. I only pulled one out here because I was actually going to put a second one in here, and it ends up coming up in a future category. But my biggest palette I have is my Jaclyn Hill palette from Morphe. I got this not long, right after it Morphe started being sold in Ulta. I picked this up. So this is, I believe, the original formula. But this is my biggest palette. I have some that are very, very close. In fact, the other one that I'm going to talk about here in a minute is very close in size, but this one is definitely the biggest palette that I own, as I'm sure Morphe is probably one that a lot of people have as their quote-unquote biggest palette, because, you know, Morphe is like known for these big palettes, I guess. This is the only one that I have that's like this size from Morphe. I don't have a lot of Morphe palettes at all. Yeah, I think this might be the only one that I have currently in my collection. I think I had one other one and I got rid of that in my declutter. All right, the next one, Best Memory. There's a specific reason why I picked this one. This is the NYX Wicked Dreams palette. You might look at this and be like, it's not that exciting, Jessica. It's not. It is not that exciting. And in fact, for something called Wicked Dreams, I would expect it to be way more colorful than this. This is the first palette I bought. I was just talking about the very first videos I filmed for Epic Beauty Fail. And I went on Black Friday to buy makeup. This is the palette that I picked up. Was this one right here. So that's why it's the Best Memory. This is what I picked up to start Epic Beauty Fail. And here I am, I think 3 years later. I think it's been 3 years. Yeah, I think it's been 3 years. And I remember filming that video. My husband, John, filmed me literally walking around Ulta, not having a clue of what I was doing. Literally not having a clue of what I was doing. And the reason I picked up NYX, I picked up like a full face of NYX. The reason I picked up NYX was because I Googled drugstore cruelty-free brands, and that's why I ended up picking up NYX, because I don't know if NYX is still cruelty-free. At the time they were. And I remember going into Ulta, Black Friday, it was crazy busy because, you know, Black Friday, and I ran into an employee and I was like, where is your NYX? And she's like, oh, it's over here, and she showed me where it was. Yeah. And my husband filmed me doing it. It was quite funny. All right. The next one is Worth the Hype. And this is the one that was the runner-up for the largest palette. This is the BH Cosmetics Zodiac palette. When this came out, everybody was talking about this palette. Like, everybody. And I held off for getting it for a little while, but then eventually I did pick it up. And I'm not sorry that I picked this up. This palette is very, very nice. It is colorful. It's got mattes. It's got shimmers. Like if you don't have any other eyeshadow palettes and you want an affordable palette that you can use and make just about any look that you might even want to consider, this would be that palette, in my humble opinion. I've even seen some people get this at TJ Maxx. So BH Cosmetics already is an affordable brand. You can usually get their brand if you go to their website. It's almost always on sale. But like I said, I've seen people who found this at TJ Maxx. But this is just a pretty palette. You can make neutral looks. You can make super colorful looks. Some of these eyeshadow, like this Aquarius shade, is absolutely gorgeous. But like you could use Pisces or Taurus or like Virgo and make a more like everyday look. The mattes are all really nice as well. So I would tell you that I believe that this palette is definitely worth the hype. Everybody was talking about it. And this is probably my second biggest palette. It's big in a different way. Like whereas the Jaclyn Hill is a little bit longer, the Zodiac palette is a little wider. So that I was going to have both of them in as the biggest palettes, but when this category and the next one I was really struggling with. Those were the two categories: worth the hype and then not worth the hype is the next category. I was like sitting here racking my brain through all of my eyeshadows trying to think of which one that I could use for this category and the not worth the hype categories. And I was going to skip this category. Like I totally was going to skip this category, and I was re-looking at everything and I'm like, you know what? This works because this was worth the hype. It's an inexpensive palette. Everybody was talking about it when it first came out, and it is a good palette. So I absolutely would recommend that. It's definitely worth the hype. Not worth the hype. I want to preface this with, I adore the person who created this palette. I just didn't get a very good quality palette. And it's actually two palettes. And it is the Emily Edits from Revolution. I love Emily and Noelle. I've watched hours upon hours of my life have been spent with Emily Noelle. She's one of those people where I would probably, if I saw her on the street, be like, hey, you're Emily Noelle. I watch your videos. You seem so nice and so sweet. She does. She's absolutely, and like her kids are adorable and everything. My palettes are just not very good quality. If you saw my declutter videos when I went through my drugstore declutters, I was going to let these go, but honestly, I held onto them because I wanted to support Emily Noelle. I bought them to support Emily Noelle. This one, I really am not fond of at all. This is the Needs palette. I don't really like anything in here. I don't think any of it worked well at all. None of them. And then the Wants palette is better, in my opinion, and my palettes. I've heard that they changed the formula and reformulated it and reissued them. I got them in the initial purchase, or the initial launch. But this one's better. I'm going to be honest. This one is definitely better than the than the Needs palette. I can do more with this palette, even though I haven't touched barely any of them actually. Because I kind of got turned off by them because some of them, like, they just don't necessarily show up on your eyes. And that might be just Makeup Revolution in general. I don't have a lot of Makeup Revolution palettes. So please don't get mad at me. I love Emily Noelle. These palettes in particular, they were really hyped up because everybody loves Emily. She's like one of the sweetest human beings on the planet. But she should have partnered, in my humble opinion, with a different brand. And like, BH Cosmetics does a lot of collaborations. A lot of them. I actually have like 3 or 4 in my drawer, BH Cosmetics collaborations. I've not had any issues with quality on BH Cosmetics. I know that e.l.f. has had some collaborations. I think NYX has had some collaborations with YouTubers. So just in my humble opinion, I just, not worth the hype. All right, favorite palette from a favorite brand. There's only 2 more categories. Favorite palette from a favorite brand. I think people who've been around for a while will not be surprised by this category. And the final category, actually, one of the palettes, I have 2 palettes in the final category. One of those, it might be the one you're thinking if you have been around for a while. But I went with this one. This is from Viseart, which if you've been around for a while, you know that Viseart is one of the brands that I do really enjoy. This is the Golden Hour palette. This was their first like 9-pan in this format, and they've done several other 9-pans since then. I think they have 3 or 4 now. This is still my favorite. This is my favorite Viseart palette, period. I've got that editorial palette. I've got the Grande Pro. I have one of the Grande or the Mini Pro. I have 3 of these, 3 of the 9-pans. I have several of like the little quads, I think they're quads, whatever they are. They're like the monochromatic ones, or no, there's 6. There's 6 little shadows in there. I have like 6 of them. But of all of Viseart, this is my favorite palette, this Golden Hour palette. I've had this for a long time. I bought it right after it came out. I feel like this is very versatile. I can just go with like these shades here and get a very neutral look. If I wanted to, I could go with the red or the orange or some of these deeper shades as well. And I just really, really love this palette. I really, really do. Last category is most used. So I have 2 palettes here, and you might be able to guess. You might. Soft Glam. This was the runner-up for my favorite palette from a favorite brand. I have used the heck out of this palette. I have lots of divots in the shadows. I just really, really like this palette. The other one, and I could have used this palette in multiple categories. The other one is the Maybelline Lemonade Craze. This was in my project pan last year in 2019, and this is like one of the only, if not the only, eyeshadow palettes that I've hit pan on. I really like this palette. This is a really, really good palette, and I will still pick this up and use it. I love the shade Sunnies, which is the yellow shade. I actually have a divot in that shade, which is unusual for me, but I really do like that shade. This shade right here, Strawberry Lemonade, I really, really enjoy. The Sugar Coated palette or shade I really enjoy. Sweet Tea is always the shade that I put in my crease. Old Fashioned I put in my outer corner. Sherbet I use all over the lid. So I use like everything in this palette, like everything. I think the only one that I have not really used a lot of is this Ice Pop shade, the red, the pinky red. Everything else I have used in this palette. And then the Soft Glam. I mean, I could have used this for my favorite palette and my favorite brand. I could have used this in the everyday. Yeah, I really like this palette. I have used, I think, every shade except black eyeshadows scare me. Black eyeshadows scare me. So I don't use black eyeshadow very often at all, but all the other shades in this palette I have used and quite a bit actually. Rose Pink is probably the most heavily used, and Tempera. Those 2 are the most heavily used shadows in here. I never end up hitting palette or hitting pan on any of these, but Fairy and Glistening I use quite often too, these 2. So I really, really, really like this palette a lot. I oftentimes will pull it out and use it. So that is my eyeshadow palette tag. If you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you'd like me to do this with any other categories of makeup. What I was thinking about doing was doing like my top 5 of the different categories and doing like a whole series of my top 5. So I might be starting that next week. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. I've got to come up with my lists of my top 5. Now, maybe not every category, because there are some categories that I maybe only have 2 top, but I can let you know that too. So let me know what you think of this type of video in the comment section down below. If you have not yet and you would like to be, please hit subscribe. Or if you're curious about those top 5 categories or top 5 videos that I just mentioned, go ahead and hit subscribe, because I'll be coming out with them very, very soon, I believe. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I do hope to see you on the next Epic Beauty Fail. Bye, guys.